Oh, hey there. Yeah, I picked up a Galaxy Z Fold 4. Normally for a video like this, I would take some time to write something out and really kind of think about what I'm going to say, but this is going to be a little off the cuff. See, I have to decide quickly whether or not I'm going to return the Z Fold 4 or trade in my S22 Ultra and keep the Z Fold 4. And I really have no qualms about sending back a phone that I don't like or doesn't fit with my lifestyle. You can see an example of that over here, where I bought the Pixel 6 Pro and ended up going back to Samsung afterwards. So this video, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty about the Z Fold 4, about the quality of the crease or things like that. All I'm going to talk about is what influenced my decision to either keep or send back the Z Fold 4. Let's get started. So why did I decide now to get a Z Fold phone? I mean, one, come on, look at that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? But just the cool factor is not enough to pick up a phone. I thought there were some really cool things about the Pixel 6 Pro, but there were some big deal breakers that kept me from staying on that phone. So what I will say, using this phone for a while, I love the fact that it's really two phones. So it's actually the more compact of the two phones if you fold them up. Sure, it's a bit thicker, but my first smartphone was a Palm Trio, so this is actually pretty nice compared to that back in the day. But what I noticed when I picked up the S22 Ultra after having used this for a while is how big this thing felt. It just feels like a big phone, where this actually feels compact. It feels like a small phone. The narrowness of the display makes it so I can reach all the way across. I can use the keyboard one-handed. I can use this phone just like any other smartphone, but not have to stretch to make things happen. But then I always have with me an Android tablet. And that is just a really cool thing to have. Just being able to edit photos, being able to watch videos, being able to play games in that big format. It's hard to get across how cool that is until you've used it. I've watched a lot of reviews, I've read a lot of things about it. I had wanted to pick up a Z Fold since probably the Z Fold 2 when they had worked out some of the kinks. But it was hard for me to make that leap. So what convinced me to finally make that leap is that they didn't skimp on the cameras. The cameras are kind of an important thing to what I do with a smartphone. So in shooting these back to back, I will not say it outshoots the S22 Ultra. The S22 Ultra is still on top, but it's a matter of degrees. Almost any smartphone nowadays is good. I mean, their pictures are good. There's levels of good, but there isn't any flagship phone that has outright bad photography. Now, while that Z Fold 3 fell into that good category, this falls into the great category. So we're talking about different levels of great. So I'll talk about what's missing when we get to why I would keep the S22 Ultra, but the cameras are not the deal breaker that it once was. The second thing is battery life. I've been using this phone for a little while, and I've gotten used to this phone, and I will say that the battery life is about equivalent. There's some differing viewpoints online. People have done testing and things like that, and I'm not going to do a full round of testing. I don't have that much time. But just from me using my phone like I normally would, I would say the battery life is equivalent. And the reason why I'm putting the battery life being equivalent in a reason to keep this is because of what it is with the big screen and everything else it does. The fact that it can keep up with the S22 Ultra in battery life really shows that Samsung has gone a long way to making these things an everyday usable phone. As far as other reasons to keep this phone, there really isn't. This is basically an S22 Ultra that does this. I mean, honestly, that's really the main attraction, and it really doesn't do anything that much more than the S22 Ultra does. So what about the things that would keep me on this phone and have me send this back rather than trade this in? I would say the biggest thing is the cameras. I know I said they're both differing levels of great, and honestly, the 50 megapixel versus 108 megapixel really doesn't matter to me. But there's two big things that you're losing going from the S22 Ultra over to the Z Fold 4. One is that periscope camera that gives you that 10 times optical telephoto lens. While the quality you're going to get out of that camera is not incredible, the fact that you can reach out that far and get usable photos is still mind-blowing. It's something that Samsung has done great with. While the camera modules seem mostly the same from the S20 Ultra to the 21 Ultra to the 22 Ultra, every iteration has done some refinement, and now this 10 times telephoto lens is a very usable camera that can do incredible things. The other thing that you're losing is on the ultra wide, it will not focus in close like it does on the S22 Ultra. so you're losing that macro capability that you get on this phone. The other big thing for me that I would be missing from the S22 Ultra is the built-in S Pen. The fact that this is the extension of the Note series. While I can use an S Pen on here and I can have a case to attach the S Pen, having it built in is something that is such a nice feature to have. One thing I would absolutely want to see added to the Z Fold 4 is the ability to use the S Pen on that cover display. I could be using my S Pen in here, but then when I close it up and I want to continue, I have to put the S Pen away and then use my finger on the cover display. Another reason I might keep the S22 Ultra is the fact that it's basically a standard aspect ratio for the screen, whereas the Z Fold 4 has kind of an extra tall aspect ratio on the front and then an extra square aspect ratio on the inside. Now it's actually kind of fun to have the big viewfinder while you're taking pictures, but there are some apps that just don't play well with this aspect ratio, like YouTube Shorts or Instagram, a few other things that just either get clipped or don't quite adapt to the screen shape. Now I could say this is something that's likely to be addressed over time, and hopefully Android 12L and Android 13 do help towards addressing that issue. But Galaxy Z Fold phones have been out for years now, and there's still these problems with these major applications. Honestly, the next section is going to be the biggest because there's a lot that's basically the same and not really a compelling reason to go from one to the other. Samsung has actually done a great job adapting Android to its use. One UI has evolved over the years to add a lot of features that Android just doesn't offer natively. And I talked about it in my last video about the Pixel 6 Pro, but the Z Fold 4 basically continues all the good work that's going on with the S22 Ultra. So there's a newer processor here, it has a newer version-ish of Android, but overall, there's nothing much between the two. They're both fast, they're both easy to use, they both have the nice features, they're both durable. Even though I do have some concerns about the durability of the interior display, from what I've seen is they've done a great job keeping these as a usable everyday phone and not something you have to make sure you baby and be super careful with. So which way am I going to go? Honestly, I'm going to keep the Z Fold 4. A lot of the little details are close enough that I can go either way, but just the experience of having this small phone turn into a tablet is just such a game changer to me that I can't see sending this back to go back to the S22 Ultra. Now, of course, this is not a purchase to take lightly. This is an expensive phone, but it does help that Samsung offered me $1,000 trade-in credit for the S22 Ultra, along with $300 in credit on Samsung.com that I used to buy the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. So, still a significant amount of money out of my pocket, but that lightens the sting quite a bit. And like I said before, I've been on a string of trade-ins with Samsung, so really my initial investment wasn't that big and it's kind of carrying over from year to year. I might do a deeper dive into the ins and outs of this phone and what I think about it more specifically, but just in this video I wanted to go over why I'm keeping this versus the S22 Ultra. Now, if you're in the market for either of these phones, you really can't go wrong either way. It just comes down to what your priorities are and what it is that's important to you. To me, having this ability is way cooler and way more important to me than having the very top quality of cameras. The part of that is that if I'm going to actually go out to do photography, I have a lot of other cameras that I will bring with me other than the phone. This is just nice to have because it's in your pocket and on you at all times. And like I've said before, it's honestly stupid to go from one year's phone to the next year's phone. Phones last much, much longer than that, and there's really no good reason to spend the money to go from a phone from last year to the phone this year. But if that's what you're into and that's what you enjoy and you're capable of doing it without it impacting your lifestyle, then you do you, just like I'm doing me. So what do you think? Do you think I made the right move? Or do you think maybe I should have gone in a different direction? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, never stop having fun.